Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, you know, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back, everyone. It's 4:02 in the Pacific Time Zone. Time for Toker Talk Radio, where we let down what's left of my hair, loosen the tie, and just chill out. You and me and a bowl. At least I hope you've got a bowl. Actually, I should say I hope you have a full bowl. You might have a bowl. It just might be empty. It's the worst kind of bowl. It's Friday. We made it to the weekend, and this weekend for the Christians out there in the audience is Easter weekend. Today is Good Friday, which I always think is a redundant term. All Fridays are good, aren't they? But happy Easter to all of our Christian fans out there, including my mom. Got to go to an Easter service with her a year ago, and it was quite interesting, folks. Because I'm not a religious person, but there's a okay. So here's the thing. Let me. I'll go off the warpath just a little bit here. Talk a little bit about religion, right? I always think of myself as ethnically Christian. Right? You know, when they talk about the wars in Central Europe and stuff, they'd say the ethnic Serbs and the ethnic Muslims and so on, right? And I never really understood what that meant, right? But I'll make up my own definition. And that is, like, I grew up in a Christian family, in a Christian town, in a Christian land, right? Not officially, but it might as well have been. So, like, my background and my holidays and my turns of phrase, I guess, are Christian. I have this Christian ethnicity, right? That has nothing to do with actually believing in the Bible and Jesus and, ascension and resurrection and all that stuff, right? It's just a cultural thing, right? It's part of our culture. It's part of my culture. I grew up Christian, right? So I don't feel out of place, even though I'm, a non-believer or anything like that. I don't feel out of place in a Christian setting, just because it's kind of familiar. It reminds you of being a kid, going to church as a kid, or, Sunday school or whatever. Right. So I went back to Idaho, and attended a Easter service with my mom, last Easter. Right. And it was kind of funny because, I always thought that, like, Easter was that day, Easter and Christmas, when you went to those services, you really got your dress on, right? And get all dressed up. And I'm a public speaker. That's part of what I do for a living. So I got some suits. Okay. I got some nice suits. So I got my nicest suit with my little tie chain and cufflinks and pocket square. Man, I'm all accessorized and coordinated and shined shoes and matching suit. And now I'm all good to go. Right. I get there at this service with my mom. And, first of all, it was held in the junior high school gym. Right. They had lost their church for some reason. I don't know it doesn't matter. Right. But they had lost their church and they were out of a building. So they were renting space at the local junior high school gym. And like their volunteers are getting there at 6 a.m. to set this thing up. I mean, they had little stands and seats and everything, covering for the gym floor, everything they had to set up, a cross, all this stuff. So I get there with Mom, and everybody there is like in jeans. Yeah, I mean, they weren't all like grubby or nothing, right? They're nice jeans. And, a collared shirt, but nothing even approaching a tie from anybody there. So here they all are, all these, I like to call them country Christians, right? Kind of like non-denominational, not real serious on that. I mean, I shouldn't say not serious, but I should say not extreme. Let's put it that way, right? Like they might, individuals of the church might not be comfortable around gay people, but they're not going to not bake them a cake. Okay, that's kind of what I'm talking about. They might personally think like, ooh, creepy, they're gay, but they'd still bake them a cake for their wedding, right? They're good folks, good people. They behave like, Christians should. They behave in a Christ-like manner, let's say. So I get to this Easter service, and I'm dressed to the nines, right? And so here they all are in their casual dress, and everybody knows each other, and everybody knows each other's kids. And here's me, 6 foot tall in this imposing black pinstripe suit with purple accents and silver jewelry and my big bald head. It was a sight to be seen, I'm telling you, man. And it was a nice ceremony. In fact, had a lot of music. They had like a little church band going on, and they weren't so bad either. They did some good tracks, right? So happy Easter to those of you out there who are celebrating such a thing. Those of you with kids out there, hope you have a great holiday this weekend and looking forward to spring. Also, Hash Bash going on Saturday in Ann Arbor. The big old Hash Bash. If you're anywhere near Ann Arbor, you need to make it to that. It's in its, 37th year? 43rd year? Something like that. A lot of years.
Continue the conversation with Radical Russ online. Visit radicalruss.com and email radicalruss@gmail.com.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about just some random topics that have popped up throughout the week, including this story on how to avoid getting searched at an airport. That could be useful. Also, we're taking your calls live at 84-420 Radio. If you got any comments, questions, or suggestions, any topics you want me to delve into, this would be the time. Also, an update on what's going on in Arizona, the whole MPP thing. We'll talk about that when we come back as well. Stay tuned. You're listening to Toker Talk Radio on the Russ Belville Show. Silence! .420 Radio is 24-hour marijuana legalization radio. Are you tired of storing your herb in back alley baggies? Then keep your herb fresh and protected with Pottles. Pottles are airtight and odor-free. Not to mention they're reusable, BPA-free, and UV-resistant. Pottles come in a variety of sizes, styles, and colors. So go check out Pottles at mypottles.com. Use the code STASH to get an additional 10% off. Again, that's mypottles.com, mypottles.com, and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Connect with 420radio.org through social media, on Twitter at 420radio.org, and our Facebook page at 420radio.org. Follow us and like us today. You'll be glad you did. Support for 420 Radio comes from Kick-Ass Cannabis and Veggies, a guide to gardening with nature, authored by Kip Zonderkopf. Based on the ethos that a living soil is the foundation of a thriving garden, Kick-Ass Cannabis and Veggies is your guide to naturally growing resinous buds and nutrient-rich veggies. Get the ebook now with instant download at kickassorganics.com. Previews available on Amazon, iTunes, Nook, Google Play, Kobo, and many other online retailers.
Me and Martha took our honeymoon below the border neath the silvery moon. She was 18 and I was 22. Now we're just doing what the young folks do. We're going south to get that Acapulco gold. Ain't nothing it can't fix. Old dogs can learn new tricks when the streets are lined with bricks of Acapulco gold.
Welcome back, everybody. That's Rainy Days with Acapulco Gold, digging all the way back into our Roots Monday library. Love to get some of those landrace strains out here. Acapulco Gold, Maui Wowie, Durban Poison, Afghani. Yeah, if you've got any of that stuff, let me know. I'm very interested in talking to you about that. For informational purposes, of course. All right, let's get back to some stories here. More in the news. We've got a piece from High Times online, how to avoid getting searched in an airport. And I'll tell you the number one thing you can do. Spend the money and get yourself the TSA pre-check. Now, some people will automatically veto this right away because it involves giving information to the federal government and putting your name on a list. But that list is the don't use the body scanners on me and don't force me to take my laptop and shoes off at the airport list. So it's not such a bad list to get on. If you don't know, TSA PreCheck's available at most major airports. You have to do this through the Department of Homeland Security. I signed up at the Denver airport. They had a little kiosk for it, but if your airport doesn't have a kiosk, you can just go online to tsa.gov, and I believe you can find the links for it. And what it is, it's a program where you give the government like $85, $88, something like that, and your fingerprints and your full name and social security number, and they run a background check on you. And when they find that you're not a bad guy, they give you a number. And I've got my little number. And whenever you get a plane ticket, either doing it at the airport or online through their websites or through travel websites like Orbitz or whatever, there's this little field called known traveler number. And that's your TSA pre-check number, right? So you put your number in there when you're getting your tickets. And then when you get your ticket, your little boarding pass printed out, it has a thing on it that says TSA pre-check. And then you get to go to this nice exclusive express line. While everybody else is in that snaky snake line waiting for the metal detectors, you get to go right through this line, express all the way up to the front where they usually have a dedicated metal detector just for that line. You don't have to take your laptop out of the bag. You don't have to take your coat off, your suit jacket off, or your hat off. Usually I have to take my belt off because I have a big belt buckle, but you don't get any of that pat down stuff. You don't get any of that backscatter, rapist scan, look at your naked body kind of stuff. None of that. So, I mean, I tell you, for getting through an airport quick and with little hassle, it's the way to go. Now, there is the trade-off. You are cooperating with TSA, giving information to a federal bureaucracy and letting them inspect you, so to speak, inspect all your records. And maybe it's an easier decision for me because I'm a public person, right? I'm not really hiding much of anything in my life. So maybe that's an easier decision. But if you're not that kind of person, if you don't want to be TSA pre-check, there are still some things you can do to avoid getting searched at the airport. The number one thing I would recommend to people is be a pro. There's so many times, and I fly once or twice a month. And so when I'm flying, the thing I hate the most is getting behind the amateur in the airport. The amateur is the one who's at the metal detector. I was behind this guy one time in his 20s, had like 4 or 5 neck chains on and a belt and like these combat style boots that laced all the way up to the calf, right? And a whole bunch of stuff in a bag and stuff. So when he got to the metal detector, he obviously couldn't go through the neck chains. You have to wait for him to take the neck chains off. Then he goes through and gets beeped again. And he had to come back and take the belt off. And he got beeped again because he did this other thing. He forgot this thing. Don't be that guy. Man, have your stuff together. And here's what I counsel people when I'm flying, right? Is the only thing that I've got in my pockets when I'm flying is my wallet. Everything else, change, business cards, cell phone, comb, like I use a comb, but you know what I'm saying? Anything else is packed in that carry-on. You can get it out of the carry-on once you're through security. But when it comes to getting to the airport, just have your wallet and your boarding pass and keep your ID out with your boarding pass. Make it easy for everyone else behind you. And the more you're that guy, the more you're the professional, the more you look like the guy who's in the airport every week or so, the less likely TSA wants to mess with you. Like I said, I travel 1 or 2 times a month by airplane. And I never get picked for the random search. And this was even before TSA PreCheck. I've only had that for less than a year now. But even before TSA PreCheck, I was never the guy. They would never pull me out of the line for the separate pat down or any of that stuff. Never. And I can't tell you how many times someone near me was getting pulled out for the random check. And, it was like grandma, or it was like, soccer mom, or, a business guy, right? Nobody you'd ever suspect. But they never checked me. Although I have to admit, I did go through TSA PreCheck the last time, and I did get coming back from Texas, I got a random, hey, let's check you out kind of thing. But even that, they didn't really search anything. So try to be a pro, try to look like you know what you're doing. But here are some other tips, because there's a news agency, The Intercept. They're the ones that were the Edward Snowden. They gave us the Edward Snowden leaks, right? There's an anonymous source that disclosed a checklist called SPOT. And it's the Screening of Passengers by Observation Techniques. And this is supposedly a guideline of what TSA is looking for to indicate that you're a suspicious person in the airport who needs to be checked up on. So, some of the things that they say are excessive clock watching. If you're constantly looking at your watch, constantly looking at the clock, if you're late to the terminal, that's something suspicious. Because it wouldn't ever happen that someone innocently would be late and then worried that they're not going to catch their flight or their connection, be looking at their watch a lot. Really? This is something we use to determine whether someone's a terrorist, is that they might be late and nervous about it? Here's some other things. Says sweaty palms and bad body odor can get you on the SPOT list. Sweaty palms and bad body odor. Not like anybody has fear of flying and might get sweaty and nervous and maybe a little stinky, worried about putting themselves on a pressurized tube to hurtle through the sky at 35,000 feet in the air at 500 miles an hour. That wouldn't make anyone nervous enough to get sweaty palms now, would it? What else do we got in here that are how our well-trained TSA agents are spotting terrorists these days? Improper attire. Improper attire. What exactly is improper attire in an airport anymore? We're long past the Mad Men days when everyone wore suits when they flew. So, I see people in literal pajamas flying these days. So I'm not sure what improper attire necessarily means. Wide open staring eyes. Wide open staring eyes. Okay, so there's a tip, folks. Don't go all googly-eyed and get in any staring contests when you're in the airport. What else we got? Exaggerated or excessive grooming gestures. Exaggerated or excessive grooming gestures. Combing your hair too excessively now makes you a potential terrorist. Appearing confused or disoriented. Right, because, airports are so easy and simple for newbies to understand. everything on this spot list is nothing but a whole bunch of hunches that could be easily and innocently explained by all sorts of things, not the least of which is airports scare and confuse most people.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
Yes, I am thinking of the children, and I'm thinking until they're age 6, they should not be on a plane. Oh, I'm going to get some hate mail for that. But it's 4:20 here in the Pacific time zone on a Friday, so I don't care. We got some CO2 company vape pens. We got some good herb. We're going to have ourselves a good time. We'll be back. Herb Thrasher's calling in with some music from Splintered Throne next.
420 Radio, the activist radio station. Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Normal. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact Normal at norml.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
Are you in the market for portable vaporizers now? Get online to vapes.buzz, the quick and easy link to portablevaporizers.now.com. Vapes.buzz has everything you are looking for, including vape pens, herbal vaporizers, e-juice, parts, accessories, and more. Visit vapes.buzz and use promo code 420radio to get 10% off your online purchase, or just give them a call at 866-264-2415. Vapes.buzz. Get vaping, baby!
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Rockin' Friday, featuring rock, metal, and the hard edge of alternative country. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tune.
All right, still enjoying our 420 break, and we turn to the man made of metal and marijuana. It's Herb Thrasher here with our Rockin' Friday Daily Toker Tunes. What up, Herb?
Oh, man, doing great. Another beautiful, exciting rainy day here in Portland, Oregon. Excited for another rockin' night tonight on the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Before I get to that, I thought I would give you guys a little update on the march, since we're less than a month away now that we're at the 3rd of April, where the May 2nd is the march. And so all cities around, you guys definitely look at your cities. There's close cities around that are hosting all these global cannabis marches. And the one we're going to concentrate on right now is here in Portland, Oregon on May 2nd at Pioneer Courthouse Square. And that's about Southwest 6th in Morrison in downtown Portland. And the event is held from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we're going to have speakers and bands, Mac and Dub Smoking Section, the Syndicate, Bad Habitat, speakers such as Lee Berger, Anna Diaz, Madeline Martinez. Russ will be speaking. I'm going to be the MC that day, so I'll be having a thing or two to say throughout the day as well. The event is sponsored by Portland Normal and Oregon Normal and KBOO and other great groups such as Veterans for Peace. And so you guys go ahead and make plans now. As you've been keeping up with Russ's show in Oregon, we've got all kinds of work to do, and now is the time to do it, and we can make a large statement on May 2nd right here for the Global Cannabis March on Saturday down at the Pioneer Courthouse Square. All right, tonight looking for a great Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. One of the bands that we had on one of our epic shows for 2015 in February was Black Pussy. And these guys were signed to Made in China Records. They came in studio and stayed for the whole show. But tonight we're going to focus on the segment that we talked about their name, because at that time they had yet gone really out on tour, and it hadn't really gone a lot of noise about them. And all they have done since then is play sold-out shows, pissed people off, got a petition people to sign against them to get them to cancel shows. And so they've been doing a great job. We're going to celebrate them and look back at that interview, and I'll give you an update of where they are now and what is next for Black Pussy. Got a lot of new tunes, and we'll give you some news and talk about other stuff in the second hour as well. Getting to our Rockin' Friday tune, this is Splintered Throne, and they're from locally here in Portland, Oregon. They have a brand new album out here recently called The Octagon, and the tune that we're about to hear is Hope and Change. This is 5 dudes. They kind of have a metal, power rock, kind of power metal kind of sound to them. A lot of old Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Firewind. You can hear that sounds in them. They have a show tomorrow night in Arlington, Washington at the Mirkwood and Shire, 4/4/2015 at 7 p.m. So you guys definitely get out there and check them out. Other bands are playing with them. They have a splitteredthrone.com website and Bandcamp page. Get out there and check them out. This is Hope and Change. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys tonight on the Earth Thrasher Flower Hour.
You said and done will erase the reasons that we care. Now we're fighting for our own air. Built on promises we'll be holding to. A language and a tone that felt like coming true. The only time we tell if the vision was a lie. You break the backs of your people and you sit and wonder why. Now it's on and we're strong, and what you call your reality is nothing but insanity. And the truth is staring at you. It's time for us to walk and rise. Erase all of your alibis. The hope and change you offer now we can't afford. The language that we own was broken or record. Still it's there to listen to what the people say. Close your ears and eyes and pretend that it's okay. Now it's on and we're strong, and what you call your reality is nothing but insanity. And the truth is staring at you. It's time for us to up and rise. Erase all of your alibis. The only hope and change we need is making you our history. want to destroy what we built. Did you think that all we had was a gift? One that you squandered with your lying eyes. A silence is broken on the freedom's cries.
420 Radio, the home of marijuana experts. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, treat law enforcement with respect and stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney." Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com.
Oh man, I really dig this tune. You should really check out this groove.
Cool. Groovy.
Hey, check out more deep cuts like this on my show, Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink, every Thursday night on 420 Radio. Funky Roller Rink.
Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you.
Welcome back, everyone. 4:33 here in the Pacific Time Zone. Radical Russ coming to you from Rolla J Studios in rainy Portland, Oregon, where we just got a visit from the mailman. Love it when the mailman shows up, because sometimes he has new goodies for me. You know how I've told you that being a marijuana activist, the pay sucks, but the fringe benefits kick ass? Well, today, just got one of these fringe benefits, folks. Another one of those situations where I almost wish I still had video. Almost. I just don't, though. I got a package here from the folks out at Head Choice, where they've released a revolutionary new product called the Dipstick. And I'm pretty impressed with this thing. Okay, so what this is, this Dipstick thing is a self-contained marijuana pen dabber, okay? But it's not like a vape pen, right? Like I've got the CO2 company vape pens. They're preloaded with concentrate oil. It's not that. And you know, like the where you get the cloud vapes or those pens that have the big globe on the end of them. They got this little element, and you load them up with some concentrate, and you inhale through that. It's not that either. What this is like a heated dab straw. if that's the best way I can explain this thing. First of all, it's a little bit larger. It reminds me of like a large size marker, but it's kind of flat. It's a black form here that's got a nice hole on the end of it, so you can put a lanyard on it, right? You can wear it around your neck. The base of it has this little plastic end that's magnetically attached, so you don't have to screw anything on it. It just kind of pops on, pops off. Okay. And as you look at this from the back, right, there's a hole on the end of this. Okay. And then on the other side is a little screw where you can unscrew it and put in rechargeable batteries. Now this is using, looks like AAA sized rechargeable batteries that you can put in here. So you load it up with the AAA rechargeables. Hope I got those right. Did I get those in the right order? There we go. So you load up the AAA rechargeables. You put this cap back on the end of it, right? So when I first got this, I wasn't quite sure what was going on, because on the other side of this, there's an element that you screw on. So I've got the element screwed on, and I'm looking for the cap. I'm looking for the globe. I'm looking for the part that you put on the end of the element where you're going to suck the dab through, right? That's not how this works. This is so cool. This is like a highlighter, like a Sharpie highlighter size. Yeah, illegally healed. Yeah, it's like Sharpie sized, highlighter sized, right? But it's not round. It's kind of got that rounded ovular kind of shape. So like if you set it down, it wouldn't roll away, right? So it's about 6-inch long, and it feels like having a highlighter in your hand, and it's got a power button on the top of it. And here's where this thing differs from anything else I've ever dealt with, right? One of the reasons I don't like the load your own concentrate pens is they're a freaking mess, right? You're always having to get your little dab tool, then you got to get some of the dab, and then you got to put the dab on the element and kind of poke it in there, and it gets on the edge, and you're trying to scrape it to get it not on the edge and get down in there, and then you got to wipe off your dab tool, and you waste some with that, and then you get your thing on the element, you put your globe back on the top of it, and it's just all, and it gets sticky, and it's yucky. Just don't like it, right? So this is where I think they found something that I'm going to dig. Because the way this works is the whole thing is like a big straw, and you're using it kind of like a soldering iron. Okay? So like you get your glass, and it comes with a couple of glass dab containers, right? Little vial jars, right? These little jars, right? So you can unscrew this jar here. And then if you got your concentrate in this jar, you stick the element end into the concentrate. You push the button on the dabber on this little straw thing, and you suck through the back end. So there's never any loading of this thing. You're just putting it into the dab. You're putting it into the butter or the wax and just pushing the button and inhaling through the unit. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any oil, but I'll tell you what, after the show, I think I'm going to run down and get some, because this thing is pretty dang cool. I hope it works as well as advertised. But it looks pretty cool. So I want to thank the folks out there at Head Choice for sending me one of these to try out. It also comes with a cap for the end of the heated end, the element end, that's also magnetic. Just kind of clicks right on there. And then there you go. It's called the Dipstick. I suppose you could look that up online at thedipstick.com if you want to see what this looks like. Thedipstick.com. Looks pretty easy to use. I just put it together here while I was talking to you. So it's not that hard to figure out either. We will do some testing of this weekend and give you the report on Monday's show. But I'm telling you, I like the form factor on this a lot. I love the way this feels. It also comes, because it's using AAA rechargeables, so it comes with a battery recharger. And the battery recharger looks like it'll take AA's as well. So you're getting yourself a free battery charger too. That's kind of cool. I can use that. But and then there it is. There's a lanyard here, so we can undo the plastic here and put the little loop there through the hole. And there we go. We've got our dipstick, I should say. I was going to call it the dab stick. Got this dipstick now all set up and lanyardized. And we'll see how well this works. This just in time for the Cannabis Cup coming up. So thank you guys out there at Head Choice for sending this to me, the dipstick. See what else we got here in this little foil packet. Oh, it looks like some alcohol. Oh, some long, they even give you those long ass Q-tips for cleaning the tube. How sweet is that? All right. We'll make a YouTube video of that too and put that on the Radical Russ YouTube page. And by the way, for those of you who've missed earlier shows and are wondering where the hell a video went, how come there's no video? I killed the video. Killed video on the show. It was becoming too much of a hassle for me to deal with, so we're not running video anymore. But it doesn't mean there won't ever be any video. When I go out to these Cannabis Cups and do these events, or if I have special interviews and such, I will still record that kind of stuff on video and put it up on the Radical Russ YouTube page. So if you'll subscribe over at youtube.com/radicalruss, you'll get a note whenever I post a new video, and you can get your video fixed. Because I know a lot of you are missing the video, and truly, if I had a staff, and if I had enough staff and enough equipment to be able to pull off video, I'd do it, but it just became too much for me. So I apologize for those of you who came in late and didn't realize what the heck was going on. There's just no more video on 420 Radio. It has freed up a lot of my time. I got to tell you that. It's definitely been good for my mental health. All right, let's get back to the news of the day. And of course, a big thing happening right now is the Final Four in college basketball. We got Wisconsin, Duke, Michigan State, and undefeated Kentucky. But interesting little statistic about this is that each one of those schools has a different set of rules for drug testing. It's interesting. Kentucky, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Duke have to play under the same NCAA rules on the court. They have to follow all the same NCAA eligibility rules in order to be able to play. But when it comes to the frequency of their drug tests and what penalties they face, it's all up to the individual schools. Now, the NCAA does have a drug testing program. They test urine of the athletes for performance enhancing and recreational drugs at its championship events. So, you get to Final Four level, everyone's getting a drug test. And for performance enhancing drugs during infrequent visits to campus during the rest of the year. Now, part of what needs to happen here is the fact that we've got disparate rules depending on what school you go to. This would be like having Olympics where they drug test in the United States, but they don't drug test in Canada, but they do drug test in France, but they drug test differently in Germany, and then everybody has to play each other. Now, it would hardly be fair, because if you were an athlete who wanted to use performance-enhancing drugs, you could shop around for which school is most likely to allow you to get away with that. So I'm against drug testing for marijuana, obviously. And to tell you the truth, I'm against drug testing for performance-enhancing drugs. Yeah, you heard me. I'm against drug testing for human growth hormone, for steroids, for any of that stuff. Why do we deny athletes any opportunity to improve themselves and their performance on the field? Because it's chemical? I mean, we get them the greatest workout gear they can use, the best gyms, the best surgeries, the best athletic trainers. We accept all sorts of enhancements when it comes to training styles, nutrition, even equipment in some cases. Equipment that wouldn't have been allowed in decades prior. I think like in, for example, baseball and some of the armor they're allowed to wear now. shoulder guards and elbow guards and knee guards and all these things to avoid that inside pitch to brush them off the plate. How much better would the hitters of yesteryear have been had they been able to use some of Barry Bonds' batting armor, right? How much better would the pitchers of yesteryear have been if they'd had access to Tommy John elbow surgery? How much better would the gymnasts and sprinters have been of previous decades if they'd have known as much about plyometrics and all sorts of advanced weightlifting techniques? So we have this acceptance of all these other methods by which athletes can improve themselves. So I don't understand why we draw this line when it comes to molecules, chemicals, steroids, hormones, any of these things. I don't understand it. Now, the argument would typically be, well, they're harmful. Steroids can be harmful. They can have harmful side effects. Well, yeah, but so can painkillers. And we don't seem to have a problem doling those out to athletes. Painkillers, molecules that unnaturally allow them to resist the pain that would otherwise sideline them. We accept that. We accept that an athlete who might have diabetes is allowed to inject insulin. We accept that. That's not natural. So, any arguments about whether it's natural or it's fair or it's artificial, they kind of ring hollow to me because we allow all sorts of unnatural artificial things to boost athletes' performance. Why not molecules? Why not hormones? Part of this is just the scaremongering that comes around drug use and people that in a prohibitionary setting are forced into the back alleys and forced to do it without proper education or supervision. Steroids done right with medical supervision can have very few side effects. And even if they do have side effects, why are we stopping people from those people who might want to take those risks? I mean, we allow NFL football players to dedicate their lives from pee-wee through high school, through college, and into the pros. We allow them to dedicate their lives to a sport that guarantees it will shorten their lifespan. It's a guarantee. You play professional football, you will live shorter life. Your lifespan will decrease. It's stats, man. So we accept the worst possible side effect there is, death, as a trade-off for these guys wanting to dedicate their life to a sport, or boxing, or mixed martial arts, where death can occur. You can get knocked out dead. It can happen. So we'll accept them being able to take this risk with their brains and with their bodies, but we're not going to accept them taking a risk with a molecule, with a chemical, with a hormone. Now, another argument that I hear is that, well, it's not fair. Because if you allow these performance-enhancing drugs, then that becomes the standard everybody else has to use. Well, yeah, it might. Just like now, if you're a pitcher and your elbow goes out, there's kind of a standard that you get Tommy John surgery. And if you don't, you're not a pitcher anymore. In a sense, we've forced pitchers to have to accept a major surgery in order to complete a career in a certain circumstance. And surgeries aren't just, trivial matters. Any surgery can kill you. There can be the side effect of death from a surgery. Any surgery. There's no such thing as a safe surgery. Any one of them can kill you. So we've mandated that they have to go through that risk. There's risks to doing weight training. You can pull muscles. You can harm yourself. But we've kind of got it set up now where if you're going to be a football player and you don't weight train, you're not going to make the team. So this argument that, well, if we allowed performance-enhancing drugs, then all the other athletes who want to compete would have to take performance-enhancing drugs. Well, there you go. Yes, they would. Now, then again, when I have this discussion with people, sometimes they'll bring it to, well, why not just have a separate league where no performance-enhancing drugs are tested for. Okay, why not have a separate league where drug testing is happening? And maybe that's what we've got now. We've got all these leagues where drug testing is the accepted norm. And if we want to have the all-steroid Olympics or the all-steroid football league, that has to be formed separately. But then, of course, we run into the Controlled Substances Act and all sorts of laws that would make that an impossibility. I would just like to live in a world where we're free to do with our bodies what we choose. And that doing things with our bodies, putting substances into our bodies, modifying our bodies, wouldn't be disqualification from being able to work. That's all I'm looking for.
America's RR7 secret agent of progressive change.
The name's Belville. Russ Belville.
This is the Russ Belville Show.
Some good points from our chat room. Boneheaded says, we talk about it like steroids aren't required for the pro athletes already. Yeah, good point. And then Vendikar, the problem with it is that athletes who play in the drug-free leagues would still cheat and use drugs to try to hide it, so why bother? Good point. All right, we'll wind things up with a marijuana story when we come back, wrapping things up for a long week here at Rolla J Studios. Back after this.
420 Radio, fighting prohibition since 2012.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, we've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter.
Despite strong public support for medical cannabis, decriminalization, and legalization in Georgia, the state spends $121 million every year to arrest, prosecute, and imprison Georgians for simple possession. Each year, the state of Georgia spends less on driver services, agriculture, and forestry combined. What else can $121 million a year do in Georgia? With that much money, the state could hire and keep 3,000 more teachers, improve roads and bridges, provide tax relief for small businesses, repair aging sewage systems, or lower taxes. But right now, that's millions of dollars of your tax money wasted on failed enforcement. Tell your representative you're tired of wasteful spending and ask them to end cannabis prohibition. Join the conversation at www.peachtreenormal.org. Peachtree Normal is a proud affiliate of NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
Welcome back, everybody. That's music from Pass Margot with Heretic. Got the last 5 minutes here of live shows on 420 Radio. At least from me by myself. Stay tuned later tonight at 8 o'clock Pacific. We've got 2 live hours of rock and roll from Herb Thrasher on the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour, followed by a live hour of funk with Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink, now on its new live Friday late night hour. That's right, from now on, Big Daddy will be joining you live at 1 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Pacific Time, with an hour of funk that we will replay on the regular Thursday 8 p.m. slot. Yeah, it's just been tough because my Portland normal meetings, my board meetings are on Thursdays, so it's been tough getting the Funky Roller Rink on live on Thursdays. And I'm already here for Herb Thrasher's show on Fridays, so we just figured let's make it easy. We'll do 3 live hours every Friday, get ourselves dabbed out of recognition. It'll be a good time. All right, just to conclude on this NCAA story with the Final Four, kind of got off on a tangent. But the way it stands now is that all the schools in the NCAA have different levels of punishment and detection for performance-enhancing drugs and recreational drugs. And here it is for the teams that are playing in the Final Four. At Duke University, the penalty for a first offense for performance-enhancing drugs is a minimum 1-year suspension. Performance-enhancing drug, 1-year suspension at Duke. But at Kentucky, you miss 10% of your games for a first offense performance-enhancing drug. They play, 40 games? So you'd have to miss 4 games. So you take steroids at Duke, you're out a year. You take steroids at Kentucky, you're out 4 games. But Kentucky also will give you that 10% suspension for recreational drugs. So you smoke some weed at Kentucky and you get that 4-game suspension too. Wisconsin doesn't care whether it's recreational or performance-enhancing drug and has no mandatory suspension for a first offense. But Michigan State does have a mandatory 30-day suspension for performance-enhancing drugs. But both Wisconsin and Michigan State are in the Big Ten Conference, and the Big Ten Conference has a year-long suspension after your first positive. So of all the teams in the Final Four, Duke, Michigan State, and Wisconsin will all suspend you for a year for a positive performance-enhancing drug test. At Kentucky, 4 games. Now, it's just coincidence that Kentucky is the only undefeated team, and Kentucky has this amazing ball team that many people are saying is you remember Michigan and the Fab Five when like all 5 of those guys were considered to be NBA starters, you know? This is it's been a long time since we had a team like that. That's what this Kentucky team is. People are looking at this Kentucky team like, oh my God, they got 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 guys that are going to make it to the NBA. Now, it's just coincidence, but I could see how perhaps if you're a player trying to make your way to the big leagues and you know you've got to use some performance-enhancing drugs to get there, and you've got a choice of schools looking at you as far as where you might want to go to school, and among those choices are schools in the Big Ten that have an automatic 1-year suspension for a performance-enhancing drug versus Kentucky, where it's only 10% of the games. That might factor into your decision as a recruit. And that's why if there is going to be some sort of drug testing policy, it needs to be uniform throughout all the NCAA. I would rather they didn't test for weed at all or any of these things at all. But if you are going to test for it, if you're going to do a stupid, unscientific, unfair policy, at least it should be equally unfair, unscientific, and stupid. Anyway, go Wildcats. I don't particularly care about college basketball, but I would love to see a team make it through a season undefeated. I think that's kind of cool. That's all the time we got for today, folks. Time flies when you legalize, but join us again in just 3 hours from now, live with Herb Thrasher on the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. And then after that, live with Big Daddy Fink from Atlanta, Georgia in the Funky Roller Rink. For everyone here at Rolla J Studios, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it,